Do you remember me, Catalina? My name is Marco, and I was a very good friend of your father. That makes you family, too. Your father had something. Do you know where it is? Just tell me, sweetheart.
The movie opens with Fabio meeting Don Luis, a powerful drug lord and his boss. Fabio tells him that he plans to leave the business and hand over all the gang's accounting records to another associate. Don Luis smiles, says he will miss Fabio, and they share a toast. As Fabio leaves, Don Luis signals to his right-hand man, Marco. Fabio knows the risks anyone trying to leave the drug trade can be punished, even himself. He quickly gathers 3 loyal bodyguards and rushes home, aware they have only 1 hour to escape the country. Fabio got home and told his wife, Alicia, that it was time to leave. He asked his young daughter, Catalina, to pack her things, but she said she was already ready. He then warned her that if anything went wrong, she should go to the U.S. Embassy and give them a chip containing all the information about Don Luis's illegal activities. Fabio also gave his daughter the address of his brother. He handed her a necklace with a Catalina flower engraved on it, the same flower she was named after, because her mother always grew them. A few minutes later, Marco and several gang members arrived and killed Fabio's men. Fabio and Alicia tried to fight back with their guns, but they were both killed. Catalina sat at the table, frozen as gunfire rang out. She quickly swallowed the chip. Moments later, Marco and his men approached her. Marco pretended to be friendly, claiming he was her father's friend, but then revealed that Fabio had taken something from Don Luis, the chip. Catalina leaned in and quickly pulled a knife hidden under the table, stabbing Marco's hand. She slipped out the window and jumped down. Her parents had clearly taught her how to survive in dangerous situations. She ran as Marco's men chased her. Even though they had parkour runners, motorcycles, and cars, she managed to escape by hiding in the sewers. She lifted the sewer cover and made her way to the U.S. Embassy, where she met an agent. He asked about her father, and Catalina told him he was dead. When he asked more questions, she quickly vomited and handed him the chip. It contained records of all Don Luis's operations. The agent looked at her in shock and asked if she understood what had just happened to her. Catalina asked for her passport. In exchange for the chip, the CIA arranged for her to leave the country and prepared the necessary documents. An agent escorted her to Miami. Along the way, she asked to use the restroom and slipped out through the window. She then bought a bus ticket to Chicago, just as her father had told her. Once there, she went to a rundown neighborhood and asked about Emilio. The man, Emilio, was Fabio's brother and Catalina's uncle. Seeing her, Emilio was overwhelmed with emotion and hugged her tightly. Catalina finally let go and cried in his arms. The next day, Emilio took her to a private preparatory school and bribed the principal to let her enroll in the middle of the year. As they left, Catalina grew angry, thinking she wouldn't learn anything at the school. Catalina realized she needed to learn how to become an assassin. Suddenly, Emilio pulled out a pistol and shot the driver, causing the car to crash. He explained that contract killers were everywhere and said that if she wanted this life, he could train her. But he warned her that without intelligence and skills, she would be dead within 5 years. That's why, if she truly wanted this path, she first needed to go to school. Catalina needed to understand what others were thinking, so she listened quietly. 2 police officers sit in their car, talking when suddenly a drunk driver crashes into them. A woman staggers out, speaking in a slurred and hard-to-understand way. The officers quickly restrain her. Around her neck is a necklace with a flower pendant. It is Catalina, now fully grown. She was taken to the police station, arrested for drunk driving, and locked in a cell overnight. Catalina eventually drifted off to sleep. Late at night, U.S. Marshals arrived with a prisoner and placed him in the cell. Catalina opened her eyes, realizing the drunk driving incident had been a setup. The real target was the prisoner. She changed into a tight black suit and began picking the lock. She grabbed a spoon from a coffee cup in the cell and quickly turned the camera away to avoid being seen. She took a cup of water from the fridge and went into the electrical room. Using the spoon and the water, she created a spark and slipped into the ventilation shaft. Seconds later, the dripping water caused a short circuit. Catalea slipped through a fan just before the power came back and landed in the men's restroom. The guard had stepped out to get coffee, giving her an opening. She knocked him out, dragged his body in front of the camera, and tricked the system into unlocking the door. Catalea opened the cell and woke the prisoner, telling him to take off his shirt. When he hesitated, she fired several shots, drawing the attention of the chiefs. They found only the guard awake, holding a gun as a decoy. While they searched the building, Catalea slipped away, climbed onto the roof, and escaped. After the chaos, Catalea crawled back through the vent, returned to her cell, locked the door, and changed clothes. When the officers checked, she pretended to be asleep. The next day, after fingerprinting, she was released. Catalea left prison wearing a latex suit with fake fingerprints. Back home, she danced to music and took a long shower. Later, she visited Danny, a painter, and her casual boyfriend, who only knew her as Jennifer. Catalea spent the night with Danny, but left the next morning too afraid to reveal who she really was. Later, FBI agent Ross learned that the victim was one of 22 people murdered in a series that had been investigated for 4 years. The killer was called the Killer because he carved a Catalea flower into each victim's chest. Meanwhile, in New Orleans, Richard visited the heavily guarded mansion of Don Lewis, a criminal who had never been caught. Richard showed him the wounds, but Don Lewis denied any involvement without emotion. Richard reminded Lewis that the CIA had protected him, allowing him to run his cocaine business in exchange for information. He also hinted that something was wrong, and Lewis understood the warning. After Richard left, Lewis told Marco to take care of the situation. Lewis suspected that Catalea was behind the murders and felt he needed to finish what he had once failed to do. Meanwhile, Catalea met Emilio, who angrily handed her a card. He reminded her of the promise he had made to Fabio to protect her and said he never wanted her to take such a dangerous path. Emilio had always protected Catalea by giving her safe jobs, but she refused to stop until Lewis was dead. Reluctantly, Emilio gave her a new target, a hedge fund manager who ran a Ponzi scheme, stole billions, and had gone into hiding. Meanwhile, at the FBI office, Ross reviewed security footage. Some agents thought the killer might be Catalea, but they couldn't believe a woman could be such a skilled assassin. Back at her office, Catalea fed steak to her trained dogs, while Pipi, Emilio's friend, took care of her weapons and vehicles. Catalea opened the safe, took out several fake passports, and chose one for Mexico. At the hedge fund manager's mansion, he was surrounded by glamorous women. Joking by the pool, he said the sharks would leave them alone until a single drop of blood made the sharks turn deadly. The hedge fund manager told his guards to bring in more guests. Meanwhile, Catalea swam across the pool, slipped into the mansion, and raised her silenced pistol. As he stood up, he saw the thief and noticed a flower symbol carved into his body. He searched the mansion and found all his guards dead. Grabbing 2 guns, he ran to the pool area and saw a flower. Catalea was sitting there waiting. He pulled the trigger, but the gun was empty. She shot him in the leg, and he fell, begging for his life and offering to pay her double. Catalea then shot him in the chest. He fell into the pool, and the sharks tore him apart within seconds. She went to Danny's apartment, but he was away at an exhibition. She slept on his bed, clutching his shirt, showing her feelings for him, but too afraid to admit them. Ross examined the tag killer's card when the mailman delivered a key clue, a Catalea flower found only in Colombia. He tried to connect it to cases there, but the CIA blocked his request. When he called Richard for approval, Richard avoided giving an answer. Richard warned Lewis to act before Ross connected the clues. Lewis told Marco to hunt Catalea and question Colombians until he found her family. Meanwhile, Danny came home to a dinner Catalea had prepared. She kissed him, but he stopped her, wanting to sit and talk first. Danny and Catalea spent the night together again. By noon, he secretly took a photo of her sleeping and then woke her with breakfast, joking that it was lunch. Catalea felt exposed and upset, so she decided to leave, leaving Danny confused. Catalea met Emilio, who was furious after seeing the news. She kept leaving her calling card, and now deadly hunters were after them. 8 people had been shot in a bar, including Emilio's friend. Catalea refused to stop, but Emilio warned her sharply. Her family was now in serious danger too. After his son died, Emilio killed many people, but it solved nothing and only put his family in danger. He gave Catalea a photo of her parents to remind her of what she could still lose. She broke down in tears and went to church with Emilio and her grandmother, seeming ready to give up her quest for revenge. At a cafe, Danny told his friend that he was falling for his girlfriend, Jennifer, even though he didn't know much about her. His friend was amazed when he saw her photo. While Danny was busy with a parking ticket, the friend secretly took his phone and sent the photo to his sister-in-law, who worked at the police station. The friend asked his sister-in-law to look into Jennifer, not knowing the trouble it would cause. Soon, Ross got a photo of Catalea, traced it to a police station, and arrested the technician who had handled it. By comparing the photo with prison footage, he confirmed that it was her. Ross had finally identified Catalea. At home, she called Danny to talk about her feelings, but panicked when he mentioned the photo. When she found out that his friend had seen it, she realized her apartment was surrounded. As a T broke in, she turned on the shower, slipped into the vent, and escaped. She ran through several apartments and broke into one, knocking out the tenant who tried to stop her. In the bathroom, she found a hidden harness and a sniper rifle. When Ross and his team entered her apartment, she set off explosives and used the harness to slide down a pipe into the garage. She shot the cameras and slipped into another vent just before the SWAT team arrived. Trapped in the subway, she managed to escape. Catalea reached Emilio's home but found it destroyed. Peep was dead on the floor and her grandmother lay motionless in the kitchen, leaving her heartbroken. She then found Emilio tied to a chair, also dead. It was clear that Emilio had been tortured. Catalea apologized, then screamed in grief and anger. Meanwhile, Ross came home and found her waiting with a gun. She told him to sit and explained that she had rigged his chair with a pressure-sensitive explosive to stop him from making any sudden moves. The Catalea flower symbol was meant to attract Don Lewis, but he only realized it now. He had taken the last thing she had left. Catalea warned Ross to get information on Don Lewis from the CIA or she would kill one family member each week until he felt as empty as she once did. She promised that the bomb would be disarmed after she left, and it was. Ross then met Richard to report what had happened, but Richard refused to give any information. At that moment, Ross got a call from Catalea. She warned that Richard had to give her the address or he would die. Richard laughed, believing he was safe behind reinforced glass windows. Catalea fired a sniper shot, breaking the glass. Richard had no choice but to give her the address. Ross asked about his family, but Catalea hung up. She never intended to hurt them. She went to Peep's garage, grabbed several guns, looked at the 2 dogs, and then drove the armored vehicle straight to Don Lewis. At Don Lewis's mansion, Marco told his men to fight Catalea, but she was too skilled. A sharp whistle blew, and a rocket destroyed the room. Marco dragged the injured Lewis out, while 4 gunmen sped away in a convoy car. Catalea crashed her truck into the convoy car, crushing it. She jumped out, opened fire, and killed the guards one by one, including Lewis's closest men. Marco pulled Lewis into a safe room, but after a fierce fight, only Marco and 1 soldier survived. Catalea killed the guard and fought Marco in a brutal struggle for the gun. She tried to choke him with a towel while he aimed at her, but the weapon was useless. She had already removed the magazine, taken off the slide, and used it to strike his neck, killing him. Lewis realized that all his men were dead. Unseen by Catalea, he slipped out of the safe room and tried to escape in a truck. But he reached a dead end, blocked by a garbage truck. Marco's phone rang. It was Catalea. Louise boasted that she would never catch him. Then he turned and saw her standing there with 2 dogs by her side. The dogs attacked Don Lewis, completing Cataleya's revenge. Meanwhile, Danny was arrested and questioned by the FBI. He admitted that he knew very little. Ross said there were still many unanswered questions. Then Danny's phone rang. It was Cataleya. She told him she was safe and gave him 40 seconds before the call could be traced, enough time to ask 3 questions. Danny asked for her real name, and Cataleya told him. He wondered if his little bird would ever return. She left it uncertain, saying maybe one day. An agent told Ross that Danny had just received a call from Cataleya, and they hurried over. Danny whispered that he loved her, which brought tears to her eyes. Ross demanded the phone, but Cataleya ended the call before saying anything else. Ross stared at the phone for a moment, then let Danny go. Cataleya put on her sunglasses, got on a bus, and disappeared to an unknown place.
I hurt my on the thing for me.